What I want to do is talk to you a little bit about the problem of not being able to collect enough data. And so sometimes students, when they're out in the field, suddenly begin to find that people aren't answering their surveys, they're just walking past them, or they're emailing people looking for interviews and the people aren't coming back, and they're getting into a situation where they're saying, well, what am I going to do next? So what I have today is a couple of tips of what you can do in each case to try and increase your response rate. So let's look at the surveys first of all. It might be that where you are, if you're standing on the street, for example, collecting surveys, maybe the positioning you're in isn't a very good position. So maybe you need to think about moving somewhere else where maybe people are more likely to be willing to stop and to fill in the survey for you. The second thing you can think about is the time of day at which you're trying to collect data. So you may find that people are less likely to want to stop, for example, if it's around about lunchtime, or if it's a time of day where they're moving, if it's a tourist, for example, from attraction to attraction. So think carefully about when is the best time to try and get people to complete the survey for you. The other thing that will help is if you emphasize how long this survey will take to complete, because sometimes people are afraid to stop because they don't want to be stuck with you for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So if you tell them how long it's going to be, then that will encourage them to stop and to tell them it's just a short questionnaire that you would like their help with to complete. And then lastly, I would say if it's an online questionnaire that you're doing, then you need to make sure that you're distributing the link far and wide enough to be able to get enough response. Also, you will have talked in your lectures and hopefully maybe to your supervisor as well around the idea that you need to make sure if you're using online data collections that you are collecting from a variety of people and not just from one group, unless you're specifically looking for a group, and then that's okay. But you need to make sure that it's not basically just your friends who are answering the questionnaire, because that would make the research not valid. If you're not sure about that, come and talk to me, drop me an email. If you are doing interviews and you are finding, let's say that you're emailing lots of businesses, the human resources manager, whoever it is you want to talk to, aren't responding and you're finding it difficult to schedule interviews, then there's a couple of things I would suggest. The first thing is an email is quite easy for somebody to ignore. So while you will email in the first instance, I would follow that up with a phone call. So if you've emailed somebody already and they haven't come back, you could email them again and then follow with a phone call, or maybe just skip straight to the phone call. At least in the phone call, if they say they're not going to do it, then at least you know, which is better than when you're waiting to see what's going to happen. The second thing I would say is to be sure when you do ring them as a chase up or in the original email to highlight the fact that you're happy to do it at whatever time suits them, wherever suits them, so that they know that the time that they're giving you is literally just the time that it'll take to do the interview, and they can work out when they can best fit that into their day so it's the least inconvenient for them. Sometimes people like the questions to be sent ahead because then it makes them see how long they're going to have to be with you, but also it may reassure them in terms of what it is you're looking for from them. So again, you could suggest that because it might be another way of getting them to buy in, if you like, and to agree to do the interview. The final thing I would say in terms of interviews is don't wait too long. So if you email someone and ask them to interview and you haven't heard back, go and email somebody else. Don't assume that everybody you email is going to respond to you, because they won't. And what's the worst that can happen? You end up doing more interviews than the minimum number you have to. There's no problem with that. That's going to benefit your research. So I would say don't wait too long, because you don't want to be caught at the end where suddenly you find you've only got 2 interviews scheduled and you're running out of time. So approach more than you think you need, because they won't all say yes. So hopefully some of these things will be helpful as you move towards collecting all of the data that you need. Have a good week.